Hello, everyone. It's George here. It's been kind of a long time since last time I did stream. I'm actually planning on going back to streaming, but I want to increase the quality first and also my connection. But in the meantime, I was thinking I want to do some deck profile videos for the English community, especially. I will be showing some Japanese format decks, but the main purpose here is to show the English community how these decks are usually being built and what to expect from them, and a little bit of the gameplay. So yeah, if you are interested in buying these decks once they're released, or just modifying them with some cards that haven't been released for this deck, I hope these videos are useful. I decided to start with the Fated One of Zero Blangdmire because I think it's a very interesting deck and a lot of people may want to pick it up. I think it's been released recently in English format, but still the build is still not so concrete. So yeah, I will be talking about this one today. And if there's any new ideas or any comments you want to give me, please feel free to let me know. And also, I will apologize in advance. The quality of the video is not so good. I'm still trying to learn how to do YouTube, but yeah, if there's, I hope in the future I can improve it. So for now, I will be starting with this one. I will be starting with the Rideline. The Rideline is actually very straightforward. The grade 0, you can choose any grade 0 you want. Actually, it's not required to have a specific one. And as for the grade 1 and the grade 2, they have a very similar effect. Both of them let you check the top 3 cards of your deck and put any number of cards that are no triggers into your soul. Now, the first one, the grade 1, is going to send the rest of the cards back to the bottom of the deck. And if you if you put at least 2 cards into your soul, you will draw a card. The grade 2, however, it's going to send back the cards to the bottom of your deck, and it's going to allow you to draw also 1 card if you put at least 2 cards into your soul. But the difference is that the grade 2 will shuffle the deck afterwards. So basically, this way, when you write into your Blangdmire, basically you don't get to have your triggers in the bottom of your deck. Also, very important to notice, the grade 1 requires the grade 2 to activate the effect, and also the grade 2 requires Blangdmire to activate this effect. I think this Rideline is actually very consistent. It's a little bit luck reliant, but very fun actually. Most of the time you will be getting at least 1 card into your soul. So if you don't mind not drawing every single turn, I think this is very good anyways. Now I will go to the main Vanguard, the Fated One of Zero Blangdmire. So this card is actually very amazing. I think it's very fun to play, and the effect is not as restrictive as many people may think. So the main effect is when this unit attacks, you will bind 2 or more cards from your soul face down. At the top, you can bind is 4, and you can choose to draw a card. Then, if you bound 4 cards, this is important to know. If you bound 2 cards, this doesn't happen. But if you've bound 4, it does happen. Your opponent chooses 2 rear guards and binds them face down. Also, this card will get 5,000 for each 2 face down cards in your bind zone. And yeah, until the end of the battle. So basically, this card is going to escalate the power very fast. At least the second turn is already 20k extra. Plus, if you at least Persona Ride, that's another 10k plus the boosters. And also, it's going to have Divine Skill. This skill is actually very interesting because I'm not sure if this is the intended way for this to work, because it says if you have at least 8 cards face down in your bind zone, you can choose to gain a critical during the guard step, by the way. If you choose to get a critical, your opponent's Vanguard loses their abilities, and also your opponent cannot use PGs to guard this attack, at least not from hand. They can play around this in many other ways, but at least from hand they cannot call any PGs to guard. So yeah, it's kind of interesting because by the time you activate this effect, Blangdmire is going to hit very hard and with extra crit, so you can very easily take your opponent from 2 2 damage to 4 damage to from 4 damage to 6 damage in one hit. But also it's very sometimes it's kind of easy for your opponent to prepare for this. Anyways, I think the strongest point of this effect is that your opponent cannot use PGs for the rest of this turn, at least from hand again. So yeah, and also the opponent's Vanguard loses ability, so the only way for them to gain ability is to ride again. So well, basically that's the whole deal with Blangdmire. And I will be going now through the support cards and show a little bit of the interactions. So one of the support cards, I think one of the most important for early game is the single strike Shatter Colossus. So basically this guy is going to get 10,000 power on attack if there are 4 or more cards bound face down. And also if this card is put into your soul, it gets bind face down and you draw 1 card. So this card is a very important piece of this deck for draw engine. The first interaction that I can think of is for early game. At least when you ride into grade 3, the first time you ride into grade 3, this card is perfect for that turn. Otherwise, usually Blangdmire's turns are very not so strong, at least for early game, that Blangdmire cannot rush very well. But once you get to grade 3, at least you can call this guy and it will hit for 13 first, and then if you attack with Blangdmire, it will get you will bind your 4 cards face down, and then this guy can attack again if you boost the Vanguard with another card we'll talk about later, and then second attack will be hitting with 23, so it can go around one defensive trigger from your opponent. So yeah, and also there's some cards that allow you to put this guy into your soul from your drop zone. So also it's a good target to discard if you have those cards in your hand in your early game. So yeah, if you I usually play 4 of this guy. It's very good. There's basically no occasion where you don't want to play this in the deck. Then the next one is the grade 2, the Steam Raider Samuk. On place, this card will counter +1, and you can reveal 3 cards from top of your deck. You can choose to place any amount of cards into your soul, and if you did place at least 1 card, you get to shuffle your deck and draw 1 card. So actually, this is very good because it doesn't restrict you to any specific card. You can put any trigger, you can put anything else. So sometimes if you exactly need 3 cards for your Blangdmire's effect to activate, you can just put everything. On the other side, it also draws you 1 card. So it's actually very good. And on attack, it has another effect. When it attacks, you can Energy Blast 3, and it gets 5,000 power and 1 extra critical if it didn't gain a critical before. This will allow you to, again, hit very hard, very early. As long as you have Blangdmire Vanguard. So yeah, this is basically one of the most important pieces together with another grade 1. Especially because in this with Blangdmire in the Divine Skill turn, it's basically game over. It's super deadly, especially if you have 2 of these guys on the field. It's a really good draw engine. Sometimes I've been in situations where I have only this guy on my hand and it just draws me something else that I need, and I can just build my field from there. But yeah, and also the critical is super good always, even on early game. At least for the first ride of your grade 3, it's also very good. So yeah, it has a lot of uses, but actually the synergy is very important with the next card we're gonna be talking about, which would be the grade 1, Evoke Alchemist. So basically this guy is the main booster for this deck, and especially is going to, you always want this behind your Vanguard. So first of all, when it boosts, it gets 5,000 just because, yes, as long as you have Blangdmire Vanguard. So you can boost anything and it will get 5,000. However, the second effect is if you have a Blangdmire Vanguard grade 3 and it boosts that unit, you can counter blast 1, and first of all it will get 2,000 power, so it's a at least a 15k booster, but also if you can counterblast one and restand another rear guard. And it gets even better if you have at least 8 cards bind face down, because that restood rear guard will get extra 15,000 power. So first, you always want to have this guy behind Blangdmire, and also usually the restand target will be Zamuk. So that way, at least you will be attacking with Zamuk with critical twice. Yes, I mean, provided you have the energy required to do it. Also, it has a very good interaction with Shattered Colossus on your first grade 3 turn, because you can attack with 13 and then just restand it, and the next time you restand, the next time you attack, it will get extra 10,000, so it would be at least a 23k. And if you get any criticals or any triggers with Blangdmire, you can give extra power. So yeah, it has a very nice interaction with a lot of cards here. So this is a key card, and also the grade 2 are very key to this deck. Anything else, except for the Vanguard, I think you can somehow replace it if you find a different way, but at least these 2 cards must be included in the deck at 4 off. So the next card is Steam Artist Arwen. So this card basically on plays, you can soul charge 1. And if you have Blangdmire, basically you can check 2 cards from your top of your deck, and you can choose to soul charge any amount of them. And if you didn't, or if you soul charged at least anything, basically you can just shuffle your deck. And also, it has another effect that is very cool in a way. If you activated Persona Ride, basically, this card is... Sorry, not Persona Ride, this Divine Skill. This card is retired, and the next time your opponent wants to ride, they have to discard 1 card. Sorry, for ride or stride, they have to discard 1 card at the beginning of the ride phase. So yeah, this card is very good, I think, especially because it allows you to soul charge a little bit more control, so you just don't blindly soul charge a trigger. If you can just check the top 2 cards, and if there was one trigger among them, you just soul charge the other thing. And I say it's a little bit annoying because the opponent has to discard, but actually it doesn't really make so much difference, because basically a lot of decks now can just call whatever they want from whatever they want. But yeah, that extra discard is kind of cute, I suppose. And the next one is the Netherworld Butcher. So this card, as far as I know, it hasn't been released in English, but in the Japanese format, it's been played at least as a 2-off. So basically, the turn this card is placed, it will not allow your opponent to intercept, which actually is very strong, especially on the Divine Turn skill. But also sometimes you want to use Zamuk's effect to get extra 5,000 power, and that's it. And usually they can just intercept with 1 card, and that's it. But actually, if they cannot intercept, they have to use at least a 10k guard or something else they may be needing in the next turn to guard it. So actually, this is very, very good. And it's sometimes very annoying to deal with. Also, it has another effect. When this unit is boosting, you can choose 1 card from your drop zone and put it into your soul. So as I mentioned before, the Shattered Colossus has a very good synergy with this card, because basically you can turn the booster into just 1 draw. Also 1 extra face down card in your bind zone, which in turn can also turn into 5 extra boost for 5k boost for your Vanguard if you have the enough cards. So yeah, also Blangdmire can remove front row very easily. Sometimes some decks just keep the front row cards and then they just intercept before Blangdmire's attacks. But just not allowing your opponent to intercept basically makes those targets for Blangdmire. And yeah, you can increase your soul if you don't have Shattered Colossus. You can just soul charge anything else, and also may be good for Blangdmire. And as for grade 3 cards that are outside of the archetype, I like playing this card because this is the main hand outside of your hand. So this card basically allows you to soul charge 1 and just choose whatever card from your soul and call it into your rear guard and give it extra 5,000 power. So one thing with this deck is it soul charges a lot, and also very important to notice is that most of the soul charge you get is like very usually normal units. So I like to think as my soul as a second hand normally. So when Blangdmire attacks, you can just bind face down anything you don't need, like the Rideline, or maybe one trigger that just got in there, or maybe one unit that you don't really need anymore. But the rest of the cards may be very useful. So usually you can call anything that you are needing in that moment. So yeah, basically that's it for this one. It just calls anything you need from your soul. And as for grade twos, I like playing Laminia. This one is a very good card for discard for right phase, and sometimes you want to use her, sometimes you don't want to use her. It depends on how lucky you are, basically. But yeah, I usually really like to use her, and honestly, I've never had any soul issues with this deck. But sometimes if you're very unlucky, you will be just soul blasting for her, and then you don't have enough cards for Blangdmire. But most of the time, it's no problem. Anyways, the other good effect is that she can just first she draws you one card, but also if you call her during Persona right turn, you can also call something from your soul. So again, as I said before, I like to think in this deck like my soul is my second hand. I can just call whatever I need. Usually the grade 1 booster or 1 Samug. So yeah, it's just a very good card to use in general. Then this audience. Honestly, I haven't seen many people use this card in Blangdmire. I really, really love this one. First of all, it has two effects. The one that is the most important, I think, is the first effect, which is an on place if it was placed by something else that was not another unit. So it can be called from hand, or it can also be called by the grade 3 order. So if you place this card on the rear guard, you can, if you played an order this turn, you Soul Blast 1, and you can check the top 5 cards of your deck and call something from top. And if the reveal card was a normal order card, you can just add it to your hand. So yeah, it's actually very amazing. Honestly, sometimes I don't have very good things in my soul, and I just use the grade 3 order to call her, and then her effect just calls something else from top deck, and that basically fixes everything, because actually checking top 5 cards is very strong in this deck. Also, sometimes you just have enough cards in your soul, or you have everything you need, but you're just missing 1 or 2 pieces. You can just call her if you have nothing else to call, and she gets the field a little bit better. If you call her from hand, usually it's just for situations where you don't have anything better to call, or if your hand is just very bad. But usually my main strategy with this one is I just call her from my soul. Also, it has another effect, which is on attack, Soul Blast 3, and just draw 1 card and get 5 extra 1,000 power. The Soul Blast 3 is actually very, very heavy. I don't really use this effect ever. Maybe I've used it once or twice. But again, it's just in case you really need it. But also, this deck doesn't really suffer from hand issues. So yeah, I think this is a very, very good card. Now, there's another very amazing card that a lot of people like playing, and is the Valkyria. I think it was a promo before, and it was just released in English. I may be wrong though. But anyways, this card has 2 effects, but we're gonna just center in the first one, because the second one is not useful in this deck. So when this card attacks a grade 3, you can choose a Dark States unit card from your drop zone and put it into your soul. And this card will be gaining 5,000 power for the battle for every grade of the unit placed in soul. So yeah, again, this will have a very good synergy with the Shattering Colossus, or also the orders, but especially with the Colossus, because again, the soul charge will be turning into 1 draw and also 15,000 power for her. It's only for the battle, so that means if you attack with her and then restand her again, the second time you attack with her, she will get the chance to put something else into soul and again get extra power. So yeah, it's also a very good finisher, and it's a very high power attack card in turns where you don't persona ride or you don't have a lot of things to do. Honestly, this is a good for occasions where like maybe your opponent has 5 damage already and you're just going for that one extra damage. But honestly, in my honest opinion, I think the best finisher is the Zamuk one. Also, this will be used sometimes when you don't have enough energy. But yeah, those are just like some of the few cases where I've used her. As for triggers, this is basically the basic lineup. You will play 4 heal, 8 critical, and 3 draw. As for the heal triggers, honestly, I think I've been playing 4 of the 15,000 extra shield if my opponent has extra critical. But you can probably play any heal trigger you want. And as for over triggers, I think these are the 2 options that have worked the best for me. I think the other ones are also fine, but the extra 10,000 and critical the Dark States over trigger gives is actually matters a lot, because you can just kill your opponent directly on the even if they have 3 damage. And also the white or yellow over trigger. It's also very good. It can give you a lot of hand if you have enough. If your opponent has enough open rear guards, but also it just disrupts the whole field and leaves you. If they sometimes manage to get enough to guard Blangdmire, they just get completely destroyed. I think it's very good. Anyways, basically any over trigger with this deck, if timed correctly, it's just amazing. It just wins you the game basically. But in my honest opinion, I think the Dark States one is the one that has the better results for me. Anyways, now for Regalis Piece, we have these 3 options. I've tried all of them before, and personally, I go with the extra Persona Ride one. But sometimes I also like to play the Radiance Caliburn one. It's just like 1 extra counter charge or draw 2 cards. It's just good, I think. Basic and fine, but the extra Persona Ride, I think it's just better sometimes because you really want that extra 10,000 power in your front row, especially if you want to activate the Divine Skill. That's because that's a big issue with this deck. If you don't Persona Ride, you lack a lot of power, so you really want that Persona Ride. And as for the Bracing Angel Ladder, I think it's fine. I think it's just 1 extra soul, 1 draw, and you keep your rear guards for 1 turn in case you're playing against a control deck. But honestly, I think this deck can build the field very easily, so I don't really feel the need to play this one so much. So yeah, I think this one depends a lot on what you want, really. But you can go with either Regalis Piece you like. Maybe you can even try a different one. But these 3 ones are the ones I've been playing with, and I think all of them are fine so far. Now, I will be talking about some interactions, like I mentioned before. These are some of the most basic ones. The first one is the Valkyria or the Butcher interaction with Colossus. Basically, it's very simple. The on attack or on boost, you can place the Colossus on soul from your drop zone. And in the case of the grade 2, it gets extra 15,000 power and you draw 1 card. In the case of the grade 1, at least you get to draw 1 more card. Otherwise, if it's not Colossus, you can just get 1 extra soul, which is actually fine. Now, the interactions get very interesting then. If you have the grade 1, the Evoke Alchemist, you can just restand whatever card you want. And if you restand, for example, the Valkyria, and you put 1 Colossus into your soul before, you can do that again and just draw another card. So that's a very powerful, actually, interaction. But honestly, for me, it's not so much of a finisher. Then we have the other interaction, which is the Colossus one. This is my favorite interaction for the first grade 3 right turn. It just attack Colossus and then stand it again, and it gets 10k because of your 4 face down bind cards. And also it goes to Soul and draw 1 card. Very simple and very effective, I think. If you open with the Colossus, actually, I think it's very, very good. If you open with 4 of them, then you can even, I don't know, discard 1 or whatever. Or you can just discard them anytime and just put them back into your soul. But I like to start with at least 1 of them in my hand, because that first grade 3 turn with Colossus is very, very strong. And the other option is Zamuk, which would be the main restand target most of the time, because it will get 5001 critical on attack only during the attack. So after the attack is over, it will go back to normal. So yeah, it requires 3 energy, but you can probably manage to save enough energy to that point. So yeah, these are the basic interactions with the grade 1. Also, we have more interactions with the grade 2. Most of the time, again, as I said before, Audience is a very good card, I think. You can start just the interactions with the grade 1 or the grade 2 and get 1 draw. So basically, it turns into a +1 to your field, +1 into your hand, or maybe another extra soul or 2 draws even. Also, you can just check top 5 cards of deck and just basically call everything. Well, I mean everything, no, I mean anything. Like, for example, Evoke Alchemist, again, is a very good target for restanding your rear guards. You always want to have this one. I think that one is a priority most of the time. And you also can get your Zamug. And also, Audience is a Soul Blast 1 for calling. If you call Zamug, it doesn't require you to call it from hand, so you can actually activate Zamuk's effect and even draw 1 card for them. So in most of these interactions, you will most likely end up with a +1 in your hand, at least. Now, also the interactions with the grade 3 card. This is, again, very simple. You can just probably imagine the rest of the interactions here. These are just the 3 main call targets that I like. My favorite one, again, it's Audience. If you really need to build your deck, sometimes my hand is just full of triggers and Audience is in my soul. I just call Audience and it gets extra 5000 and I can even call something else. Then we have Zamug. Again, you call it, Contrablast 1 and draw 1 card after soul charging at least 1. And the grade 1, again, grade 1 is always priority, I think. If you don't have it in your field, you really want to have it. So yeah, in order of priority, maybe the order here in the picture is not so good, but the priority would be probably Alchemist, then Zamug and Audience, in case that you really need to build your field. And I'm going to be talking about some other options. The first one is Bifrons. Personally, I don't really like this card. It's very costly, and all the cards that you check, they just, in a way, go away. So even if you check a trigger, it just goes to your something, either hand or drop zone. So nothing goes back into your deck. And so for 1 Contrablast, you get to check your top 3 cards and just add 1 to your hand, 1 to your soul, and 1 to your drop. I think it's fine. If you like to play it, sure. But I don't feel that's a lot of consistency, to be honest. I prefer to play something else. For Galore, this is a new card that was just released in Booster 4, I think. Booster 3, sorry. It basically on call gives you 1 energy, and after boosting, if you spend 3 energy for 1 effect, at least 3 energy, sorry, for 1 effect, it just retires herself and draws you a card. It's good for building up your energy, but yeah, I honestly don't like playing her. But I see how some people would maybe find this card very useful. And the other card that may be also good to use is Avarice Raster. Basically, just searches 1 card from 1 order from your deck, sends it to your drop zone, and you can play it from drop and goes back to your deck. Basically, you cannot search for Regalis Piece, but you can search for anything else, basically. So yeah, it's fine, I suppose. You can search the grade 3 order and play that card, call something from Soul, and then just go back. Again, it's kind of consistent, actually, but I don't really like playing it a lot. Maybe I played once or twice with this guy at 2, and it worked fine, but I think there's better options. So I'm going to be showing some deck examples. This is one of the decks for Japanese format. Here we're using 2 of the grade 2 that gets extra 5,000 for each card, for each grade in the card Soul Charged, Valkyria. And it plays 2 Orions also, and 2 of the Butcher. This is, I think, a very good ratio for these cards. And also it's playing the grade 2, 2 of the grade 1 support. The musician guy, I forgot the name. But yeah, it's very useful sometimes just for more selective soul charge. But outside of that, it's just, I guess, cool. Outside of that, everything else is just pretty standard. 4 Colossus, 4 Zamug, 4 of the grade 2 discard fodder, and 4 of the grade 1 booster. The triggers, again, it's just 8 criticals, 4 heals, and 3 draws, and just Dark States over trigger. And this is another deck example. This is for more focus for English format. Here they are playing just 2 Orions, and because the grade 1 Butcher is not released yet, I think it's playing 2 of the Order Search, and instead of playing the Valkyria grade 2, it's using only the 4 of the grade 1 for Blangdmire. So yeah, these are some of the examples. I think this deck is actually very strong. It's very fun to play, to be honest, but honestly, I think it has some things to be improved upon. So some of the good sides about this is it really has a very, very strong divine skill turn. If you time it correctly, if you get your persona right, and if your field is full, I think it's very strong. Basically, you may just win that turn. As a con for this, actually, is like if your opponent really knows what you're doing, or if your field is not very well built, it's kind of easy to play around. So your opponent can just prepare for this, and they will be most likely fine. Also, early game is very weak. Usually you don't have anything to attack with or to rush with. Most of your cards are active until your Blangdmire is written. And also, most of them require you to have at least, I think, 4 cards bind in face down so they can do something. But yeah, and at least, for example, for Zamug, which is the grade 2, it requires energy. So if you're not playing 4 color, you get at least 3 energy per turn. So you have to be very careful on when you use your energy. Now, another good thing is this deck is very flexible. The deck lists that I showed are just some examples. However, I tried so many other ways, and actually the deck manages to work. As long as you're including Zamug and the grade 1 Alchemist Invoker, I think it's just fine. You will be probably fine. You will have a lot of fun with this deck. Again, like I said, this has many deck building options, and also it's very annoying sometimes for opponents to deal with, especially if they cannot build their field very easily. It disrupts their field, and yeah, there's not so many things they can do about it. And also, amongst all the decks that have Soul Charge, this is very cool because it's very controlled, as you can choose which cards you want to put into your Soul most of the time. Now, like I said before, as for cons, your opponent can prepare for your Divine Skill turn. If they know what they're playing against, and if they know what to do, actually it's kind of easy to prepare. Also, if the Rideline fails, it's kind of hard to recover. So, like I said before, you have the grade 2 discard fodder that draws 1 card. Laminia, I think that was her name. If you use her effect and also your Rideline fails, basically you get to your grade 3 turn with 0 soul or just 1 soul, which is very bad. And sometimes it's very hard to build your soul every single turn. So yeah, it's kind of hard to build your soul if you don't have the at least very good grade 1 and 2 soul charge turns. And also, another big issue is this deck relies a lot on Evoke Alchemist and the on Zamuk, but especially Evoke Alchemist. So this grade 1 is the one that gives you the extra attack. And either with Zamuk or Falkreria, this will allow you to get the biggest pressure in basically all your turns. So if you don't have it behind during your divine skill turn, basically you just hit 3 times and you have to be very careful on how you hit. But also this extra 15,000 power it gives to the rearguard it stands are very important for divine skill turn. So yeah, if you don't get Evoke Alchemist or if you don't get Zamuk, it's kind of difficult to actually recover. So sometimes you won't find them, and sometimes you just find all of them very early. But the point is, if you don't get them, it's very complicated. I actually don't like calling them behind any other rearguards because sometimes opponents can find a way to retire them or move them somewhere, especially with this meta. And you want to constantly be able to call them either from your hand or from your soul. So yeah, it's sometimes kind of complicated to decide if you want to call them behind any rearguard or actually behind your Vanguard. But at least behind your Vanguard, you always want to have it there. So yeah, I think that's basically it from for this deck. If there's any comments or if there's any opinions that you want to give me, please let me know in the comments. And if there's any other deck that you would like me to talk about, please let me know. Anyways, thank you for watching, and yeah, that's it for today. If there's anything I forgot, maybe I will just put it into the comments. Anyways, see you around.